Okay, in this video, we are going to be reviewing Pythagorean theorem and finding C. So we're going to have a missing side this time. Please make sure that you take a moment and review the Pythagorean theorem intro video so you're understanding the basic concepts before we dive in to finding a side length that is missing. So first, I wanted to review what the formula is and then also label the parts of the triangle. So as you remember from the first review video or the intro video, we had a new vocabulary term called the hypotenuse, and that is our longest side, and it's going to be labeled with C. So again, we label it with C, and this is our longest side, always the longest side. And also, it is always right across from your right angle. Okay, then we know that we have another two sides, and these are labeled the legs of the triangle, and they can be A or B. You can intermix A and B, but C, again, always has to be the longest side, and you know its location by locating the 90-degree angle, and it's always across from that. Our formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So again, a squared plus b squared is always going to equal c squared. So a couple points of review, we need to be able to determine which side length is c. So I'm going to identify the right angles in each triangle, and right across from that right angle is going to be c, or our longest side. Okay, and number 2, here is our right angle. C is going to be right across from that, and it is our longest side. And then here is our right angle, and right across from that is going to be C, which is our longest side. So again, it's very important that you are able to identify right angles, because that is going to help you identify which side length is C. Okay, now we're going to dive into when a side length is missing, we're going to have to find it using Pythagorean theorem. And again, Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So as you first identify your right angle, you will notice that in example number 1, C is missing. Okay, you can interchange and intermix or put in different orders the legs. So I'm just going to call 14A and 4B. So I'm going to replace 14 and A into my formula, which is, again, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, and then with that being said, I'm going to place 14 in for A, so 14 squared. I'm going to place 4 in for B, 4 squared, and you'll notice that that equals C squared, and I cannot put a number in for C because it's missing, or it's not given to me just yet. Okay, now I can use my calculator, and you do 14 squared, which will give us 196. And 4 squared, which will give us 16. And then we still have c squared. So still figuring out the rest of this equation, I'm going to take 196 plus 16, which is 212, and that is equal to c squared. So if I was to cover up everything else, if you remember our inverses squares lesson, if I said that 212 equals x squared, in this case it's c squared, remember that the inverse, or the opposite operation of squaring something, was taking its square root. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. And if you probably also noticed that 212 is not a perfect square, so we are going to have a decimal. 200. So the square root of 212, I'm going to round it to 14.56. And so that is equal to C. We will go ahead and leave it there. So 14.56 will be your length of C. Okay, example number 2, you need to first identify your right angle. And then as you can see, right across from that is the side length C, the hypotenuse, and it is missing in this particular picture. We're going to use our formula again, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. C always has to be that longest side, but your legs you can flip-flop around. So let's just say that 7 is A and 9 is B. So I'm going to do 7 squared plus 9 squared equals c squared has to stay because c is missing. I do not know its value. I am going to use my calculator to do 7 squared, which is 49. 9 squared, which is 81, and that is still equal to c squared because I do not know that value. I want to take 49 plus 81, and you get 130 equals c squared. And again, if I covered all of this up and just gave you a problem from the inverse of squares, 130 equals x squared, you should be able to realize that the inverse or opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. So I am going to take the square root of 130. And that number comes out to be 11.40. I'm going to go ahead and round it and stop there. And so that side length will be C. So I'm going to say 11.4 is C. Okay, so as a brief recap, we are using Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to help us find our missing side length. You need to be able to identify where the right angle is, and that C is the longest side, always across from your right angle. Your legs, you can interchange, intermix. With A and B, you're going to plug your values into the formula, making sure that you take the square root of the number that is left, because the inverse or opposite of squaring something is taking the square root to get the missing side. Hope this video has helped, and best of luck to you on the assignment.